Today, we are going to dive into a very polarizing topic. No, we're not going to talk about which direction the toilet paper should hang, or are we going to talk about does pineapple belong on pizza? I'm talking about friends of the opposite sex. If you're in a committed relationship, should you have friends of the opposite sex? What do you think? If you're in a relationship and let's say she's got a lot of male friends, are you okay with that? Or maybe it's the other way around. You're in a relationship and you have a lot of female friends. How does this affect your relationship? And how is this part of the nice guy syndrome? Is it okay to have friendships with members of the opposite sex if you're in a committed relationship? Welcome to the Nice Guy Show. My name is Chuck Chapman. I'm here today with my co-host, Faisal Koker and Art Graf. And we're
That
coaches
was a
dedicated.
gaff.
That was a gaff. We're coaches dedicated to helping nice guys transform into integrated men because we ourselves have experienced transformation from the nice guy syndrome into integrated men, and it's our mission to help men develop the confidence and the skills that they need in order to get the love, life, and sex that they desire. So I'm going to start with a fact that I have a strong opinion about this matter. I don't believe that it's healthy for anyone who's in a committed monogamous relationship to have friends of the opposite sex. Call me old fashioned, but did you learn nothing from Harry Met Sally? I think that the best way for us to not fall off of a cliff is to stand 30 feet away from the edge. And while I do have not friends, I have acquaintances who are women. I don't have any friends that are women. And the same is true for my wife because we have this agreement that we don't allow ourselves to get close to members of the opposite sex. Why? Well, we'll get into that in a minute. Right now, I just want to ask Ari and Faisal, what do you guys think about this? If you're in a committed monogamous relationship, you have friends that are members of the opposite sex. Faisal, I'm going to start with you.
You old fashioned you. I agree with you. This is something I totally agree with you because if you're in a monogamous relationship, and I have so many thoughts coming on here as well. Is it right or wrong to have friends? Yeah, is it right or wrong to have it? It's not a question of right or wrong. It's what you want. Yeah, is what is it that you value? What is it you want? And as you presented this topic, I was really thinking about this, and I was thinking, well, I have a lot of male friends and female friends, and what I noticed was that I was looking at different cultures and how do different cultures handle this? On my recent travels, I noticed that some cultures, women don't have male friends, so they didn't naturally desire and want to have and hang out with male friends. They said, we get everything that we need from the female friends. Yes, they have acquaintances, they have relatives that provide that masculine energy, but they didn't need to go out. They said, we don't need male friends to text, hang out with, share our problems. She said, we have family, we have friends. I have my female friends and do that. And I found that to be it's like, wow, that's really great kind of like incubator you're creating for your relationship. And the guys themselves didn't have female friends that they went out for meals, drinks, or anything like that. They
Which
just
culture are we
had.
talking about?
So I found that in the Middle East. I found that in Japan as well, so in the Far East, and yeah, those kind of cultures. I found that they didn't really seek for female friends or opposite sex friends, and I think it's a recipe for disaster.
Well, I mean, those are pretty different cultures from American or probably British culture. I mean, those are more conservative cultures. Maybe not Japan, but most Middle Eastern cultures. So um, it is it's a different setting, and I think in those cultures that's just the accepted way that people behave. And those cultures, there's a lot more rigidity and less options about how people can behave. So I think
So,
it's a bigger
do you think
challenge
that
here.
Do you think then, Ari, that if you're in a committed relationship, it would be fine to have a friend who was a female, or for your partner to have a friend that was a male?
I'm evolving on this. I think um, the last few years I've erred towards not having female friends. Um, I think that's been part of my nice guy recovery is realizing, um, that I could get a lot of my emotional needs met through men. Um, and that if I had a girlfriend, that um, other female friendships might detract from the relationship, the romantic relationship. So I think that's the part of the rationale for curtailing friendships with the opposite sex if you're in a romantic or sexual relationship, is that you may covertly or unconsciously look to get your needs met through that friendship. I mean, one of the things as I was thinking about your topic was just how unconscious most people are about their friendships. Like, you know, we actually, I think, are teaching men or coaching men in how to be in romantic relationships. We don't give them so much guidance on how to do friendships, same sex or opposite sex. So, um, I think part of the reason people get into trouble with the opposite sex friendships is they go into it unconsciously and they don't realize how they're looking to get some of their needs met through those friendships, that it's not entirely platonic. And then if they get into a romantic relationship, that can kind of leak some of your sexual energy, um, and you're not aware of it. I know I've
Is
said
it
a few different things, but
is it natural for this is an interesting school of thought. Is it natural for men and women to mix? I mean, most tribes, they don't always mix. Like there was a tribe, I can't remember what the tribe was, maybe the Amazon or something like that. Oh, the guys went out hunting, brought back the food, gave it to the women. They cooked it, and they took the cooked food and ate separately. They only came back, to sleep and reproduce, and then they went back out again. And it was an interesting question because if evolutionary wise we haven't evolved to spend a lot of time with male and female, and the only times that we have was for a sexual connection, reproduction, does it beg the question that are you putting is it a question of high risk, or is it a question of you know mitigating risk of sexual infidelity or anything like that, or emotional infidelity?
Well, I think that, if we're talking from a strictly primal thing, like men, men want to have sex, you know, and typically they want to have, sex with women as a way to procreate and extend their DNA into the future. Right. Let me ask you that. Here's a scenario that just came up with a client of mine. All right. So young guy, successful, um, been married for 10 years. He went away for a week, calls his wife in the middle of the week and just checking in with her. And she says, "Oh, I gotta go. I'm making tacos, and George from next door is going to come over, and we're going to have some wine and eat tacos together."
two raised eyebrows.
and and he's like,
That sounds like fun, honey. Go enjoy yourself.
Is he 90 years old?
no, he's like no, they're like 30 something, all of them in their 30s, right?
Oh,
But
okay.
the guy from next door, single guy, just moved in, and and she's like, "I don't know why you're so upset. He's just a friend."
Of course, of course. Why would you? There was a really funny comedian, right, who said about he was taking the mick out of women. I don't know if there's a term that you guys use anyway, about women not being able to recognize the fact that when a guy is hovering around you, he wants to have sex with you. And the girls were, this is what I call not being logically available. They just couldn't get that. It's like, no, 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 that's not true. And if you ask all the guys, I'm like, yeah, if you're hot, that's what he wants. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But it was impossible for them to register. I think this
That's
is
a great
denial or
topic.
avoidance. It's avoidance here. Right. But there's a really funny
Yeah.
comedy show. I'll find that.
Yeah. But the point is like, would you be okay with that? You're in a relationship for 10 years. Your wife is hot. Okay. You're away. The guy next door, and you've met the guy. Okay. It's not like, you don't know him, but he's young, successful, single, good looking guy. She's like, oh yeah, he's lonely. I mean, I don't want him to, so I just thought it would be nice to have him over. Are you okay
Absolutely
with that?
not.
Okay. Then why?
No.
But why? I mean, if we're evolved men,
She doesn't sound conscious about how she's doing it.
Ooh.
Oh, it's just a harmless coming over for tacos and wine. Like, I don't think she's presenting it in a conscious way that she's thought about it or thought about the potential for infidelity.
Okay. Here's another argument. Could I use the argument of saying it's harmless? Oh, my neighbor, it's a really hot day and she's bathing and she's asked me to put the suntan on her. It's harmless. I'm protecting her. I don't want her to burn. It's harmful for the sun and it's harmless what I'm doing. Can I use that argument? I mean, it's harmless.
The point is that I don't know that. I mean, I don't know how evolved you can be, where unless like you were saying, Faisal, the guy's like 80 years old or something like that. I don't know how evolved you can be and be presented in a position. And so going back to my original statement of, you're not going to fall off a cliff if you're 30 feet away from the cliff. If you're right on the edge, there's more of a chance. So if you're, having tacos and drinking wine with a good looking single guy from next door, there's more of a chance you're going to fall off that cliff than if you're way back from it. And should you as a man be okay with that, especially since, she gets upset and is like, oh, you don't trust me, and what do you think I am, and all of these kind of things. How would you handle a situation like that?
Here's a simple way. For me, that's not my kind of woman. It's simple. It's not like it's right or wrong. Cool. But that's not the kind of woman. That's not my standards. That's not the kind of woman I want to engage with. I want to be in a relationship. That's a choice. Yeah. If you want to have dinner with her, cool. You can do those things. I've been in so many relationships and interactions with women where women have, they said, oh, I only have guy friends. To me, that's a red flag. If you can't connect with women and you can only connect with guys, and what I found in my experience, there's some kind of sexual trauma or some kind of sexual fracture going on here. And there's also a desperate need for attention, male attention, right? It may be innocent regardless of that, but that's not the kind of woman I want. I want a woman who's naturally more feminine. She's inclined to create and protect that naturally herself. She's conscious of, actually, you know what? I don't want anything coming into our relationship that's any kind of threat. And she's conscious of that. Right? And I found that in my experience, I found women who are not needy for attention, desperate for attention, people pleasers. What they do is they're very conscious and very protective. And what she likes to do is like she focuses much more on her needs with her female friends, and she nurtures that. She creates that nest, right? And I've seen that. So for example, I'll give you an example. My sisters, they've been married for over 25 years. Neither of them yeah, they're quite independent. They're free. They go on holidays separately. They do a lot of stuff, on their own. Never have I seen my sister wanting the need to go and hang out with male friends. She has friends that she knows through her husband, but she's like, I've got my girlfriends. That's my time. I love that. Never have I find that nurture. And I found that in many other, same kind of like setup where the guys, I think, similar setup. That's what I'm trying to say.
And you bring up a good point, Faisal, which is the difference between, like what is a friend, and what is an acquaintance. Like I said, I have lots of female acquaintances, my wife, that are generally they're friends of my wife. I know them. I'm pleasant with them, but I don't go out of my way to, check. For example, one of her friends just recently had to put her dog down and she's really upset. And she was telling me about that. And I thought to myself, oh, I should send Lisa a little text message and say, hey, I'm sorry to, about your dog. And then I was like, no, that's sort of like crossing a little bit of a line. I think if I said to my wife, hey, I'm going to send Lisa a note, that might be closer to it. But I got back up and I was like, why am I doing that? What is it that I want from this? And it just was like that. And I think the idea of what a friend is, there's an emotional exchange going on when you have a friendship, you know, um, if you're in a relationship with another man, there's an emotional exchange going on of, I'm looking out for you, I'm helping you, I'm maybe giving you some feedback, advice, that kind of stuff. And then there's this closeness that starts to happen, this bond that starts to take place. And so I think that if you have a female, or if you're male and you have a female friend who you are emotionally connected to, who's not a family member, who is just, quote, a friend, um, maybe nothing's going to happen, but for sure nothing's going to happen if you have really strong boundaries with yourself. So,
And it's that need, isn't it? Like, what is the need there? I had a really good point. I just lost it a minute ago. But it was, I'll come back. Ari, you say something.
No, I mean, I think part of what you're highlighting, Chuck, is clear boundaries. And oftentimes, I think with friendships, we never talk about boundaries, whether it's opposite sex friendships or same sex friendships. We haven't talked about the boundaries of our friendships and what's okay. I don't think. But we do practice that in our romantic relationships. So what if we brought greater consciousness to our friendships? Would that enable us to have opposite sex friendships that were healthier?
So when you talked about boundaries, here's what I remembered, right? Here's a boundary that I have set now is when I go into a relationship, the boundary that I have is that my network, my friends are my network and my friends. And what I don't do is I don't go into your Facebook or your Instagram and follow all your mates and add all your friends. I do not add them, right? I don't want to add them. I don't want them to add me. I want to keep a clear boundary there. And what I do is this is my clear expectation. I expect the same. My friends, myself, they're my world, right? When we all go out together, great. But I want that distinction, that boundary. And a lot of people who are needy, they fuse all of that and it becomes very intertwined. And I don't like that intertwined. It's like, you don't need to, I've had girls where they've started to follow all the stuff. They're trying to get into my world as a mechanism to try to, hold on to me, try to suffer. I find it very suffocating, and it's a lot. It's controlling me, and so what I do is I'm saying, hey, my world is my world. Yeah, you can view it, you can see it, but you're not to get involved and interact with it because that's my world. Right? My friends are my friends. They're not. You don't need to make friends with them. You don't need to be messaging them, texting them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a clean distinction line, and I will do the same with your friends and the people around in your world.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. Again, I think the idea of like, is the masculine energy is about frame and creating a container, right? And so as the leader in my relationship, in the masculine energy, I have a tight container where I keep my sexuality in, right? And my wife is the person that's in that container. I don't want to have leaks in that container where my sexuality sorts of leak out into other ways. And
I'm
it's the
picturing your
same
wife
thing.
in a jar right now.
Yeah.
I know, yeah, it's pretty much it's right up there on the shelf. But but yeah, that this container that we're basically like holding the standard, the boundary of like, this is what I'm doing. I'm doing this. Listen, and I'll say, it's not that I don't trust her. I don't trust other guys because I am a guy, And going back to kind of what you were saying a little bit earlier, Faisal, about the idea that, women have this idea that like, oh no, he just wants to be friends, you know.
Oops, he slipped inside of me. It
He
just
did it again. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with guys as well. Like, oops, I just kind of tripped over, and then she was there, and legs were
Yeah.
open, and I just
Nobody wakes up and says, you know what, I'm going to have an affair today. There's these little tiny
I think some
compromises
people do,
that you make.
but
Maybe they do. But there's these little compromises that happen. I don't think anybody in a healthy relationship wakes up and says that, though. I think that you make these little tiny compromises along the way. Oh, I'm just checking in with her to make sure she's okay because she lost her pet. That's one little tiny crack and one little leak, right? So then she texts me back and so, oh, thank you so much, and then we start this conversation, and then all of a sudden there's this, thing that starts happening, and now I feel like, oh, I have to keep this from my wife, and it just it can snowball, is what I'm saying.
it's a really
Because
it's human nature.
human nature.
Human nature itself is manipulative.
Mm-hmm.
If you've read the books Human Nature by Robert Greene, 48 Laws of Power of Robert Greene, you will
Mm-hmm.
see how dark human nature is on both sides. And you're putting yourself into situations and circumstances that you don't need to. And this is what I like about some cultures, is that they have this real distinction, boundaries, and that respect and desire. And that's what I found was with when you go on the other side, where it's too free, too over the top, you can have different problems. What I say is we have temperance. We bring that balance in, so we have our friends, we have friends that we see, but also, you are going to have acquaintances. And I get the acquaintances is that transactional connection that you need. Yeah. You don't, to me, I don't, if my partner was having wine with the guy next door. It's happened to me before when I was in a first relationship, very early on. She and her were having wine with, she was having wine with the next door neighbor. I'm like, what? It was like you're overstepping the sexual parameters or of the mark there, because he's a sexual threat, and he's a sexual threat, but it wasn't okay for me to do the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, have some distinctions. I want a woman who naturally chooses that. I don't have to tell her about, actually, I don't find this comfortable. To me, a woman who naturally, a feminine woman, naturally with good boundaries, not a people pleaser, is not needy, will naturally choose that. I just, my focus is with my man, and I've got my female friends. That's sufficient for me.
Mm-hmm. That's going back
This
to
could
David Data. David Data's choose a woman who chooses you. All right, guys. Thanks for being a part of the Nice Guys Show. Please, if you're watching us on YouTube, remember to like and subscribe. It really helps us reach out and get more men, nice guys, to see what the information that we're presenting here. And look, if you are listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, make sure to subscribe and give us a review there as well. Don't forget to go to theniceguyshow.com, sign up for our mailing list. And if you like this podcast, check out episode 20 why nice guys are addicted to comfort. Thanks again, and we will see you next time.
You've been listening to The Nice Guy Show with certified Nice Guy recovery coaches Ari Graff, Chuck Chapman, and Faisal Kokar. Be sure to subscribe to this channel so you can listen to our latest episodes and visit us on www.theniceguyShow.com. If you have any topics you'd like to hear us discuss, send us an email at support@theniceguyShow.com. Thanks for listening.